Hi everyone, my name is Bruno Corigliano, I'm a 3D artist, and one of the things that I like the most about 3D is lighting. So today we're doing a lighting analysis on Alan Wake 2, which is an award-winning game by Remedy, and a great game, by the way. And well, this is an exercise, analyzing how other studios or other people very talented do their stuff. This is an exercise that I think it's great because it broadens your horizons. It helps you look at things from a different perspective. You know, that the one you have installed in your brain, you are installing new perspectives. You know what I mean? And well, I'm making this video to help other artists and to encourage them to analyze other pieces of art that are greatly done, and that, I mean, when later in any project you are faced with a problem, an artistic problem in this case, let's say you are working on a mystery game, you will remember, oh, so in Alan Wake what they did is blah blah blah, you know, and you will remember it. It will be part of you, so that helps a lot. Let's get on with it. We'll be tackling the first hour of gameplay or so, which is the most important because it's when you want the player to connect to the game and to keep him engaged and playing. And this scene comes after a wonderful intro, which is filmed, I believe, or well, I don't know. There are some scenes that might be rendered, but or a mixture of both. But this is like the first playable scene of the game, right? Well. Here's a notepad. I took notes. The very interesting thing about this scene, this setting we have here is a rainy day, right? And the colors are desaturated. The whole ambience looks very cyanish, right? It tends to be cyan, everything, you see, and it's very dimly lit. Except for the main character, which is also very dimly lit, but his skin is very reflective, so he's reflecting the sky dome probably, and or maybe there's a light there, but I don't think so. Maybe if I had to say something, I would say it's just a reflection, but that's highlighting our character. In contrast to the environment, which is, of course, we are talking about a survival horror game. I mean, that's what Alan Wake 2 is. And this is what we are to expect, right? We are to expect environments that are unsettling, that will keep us on our toes, that won't make us feel good, because what we want from this game is the player to feel the suspense, the mystery, the action. And well, how do you do that with light? You need to be very careful about how much lighting you are giving your scene, you know, and what we have here is a great example because it's very dim, it's very dim light, and with a color that, I mean, it's a rainy night. A rainy night could easily be more whitish rather than cyan. Cyan is a color that psychologically tends to be associated with fear, or, well, I don't know if fear, but definitely with sadness, you know? It's gloomy, the definition of gloomy. So let's get on with it. Our character walks towards what seems to be the way forward, of course, guided not only by lighting, but also by environment. That's why I think departments in big studios should work together. The modeling department, the environment department should be on par with the lighting guys to build a better product together, right? And the guy ends up walking towards a couple of lights, which of course are your objective. That's one of the things light is used for, mostly in games. And while let's watch, he approaches the lights, and from the lights come three figures, and here is a very interesting take on the scene, that the figures are not lit in any way from the front. they are only lit by those two lights in the back. So you can't, they are like shadows. You can't see their faces. You can't see if they're wearing masks. Well, you later learn that they're wearing masks, whatever. But you can barely find out what's going on, and that's how you build up mystery, you know, through lighting. Well, it started to rain as well. So, well, after that scene, the guy gets killed, of course, and because any good horror story starts with a crime. And we're on to the credits, which are a driving scene in the car. The two detectives are driving to the crime scene through this forest. We're still in for a cyanish look, but not as hard as it was on the first scene we talked about. But what I wanted to emphasize here is if you take a look at what's happening in the dialogue and what's happening with the camera, well, finally we get a breath of fresh air. A breath of fresh air, yeah. Finally, we get a breath of fresh air with openness and brightness. As the camera pans up, we get to see these mountains, and we can say, okay, and the sky, and it's really a nice picture. It's not as unsettling as what we were seeing before. While the dialogue is talking about love and a mother caring for her daughter or her son, I don't remember. But anyways, I think this is a great example of great camera movement and lighting as well, because you are finally seeing the light, right? Which is the sky in this case. After that, they get to the forest, they get to the crime scene, and here, finally, we also get sunlight, right? Shining through shafts in the forest, we get to see the sun, which is obviously a directional light. I think it should be. And the interesting part, we're still the cyan kind of undertone will remain throughout. Will remain throughout the entire game, I believe, because it serves as a cohesion medium. You know, you are making a cohesive game. I mean, we have all played Skyrim and said, hey, it's the most saturated game I have ever played, right? Or The Witcher and say the opposite. A game should have a cohesive look, even if it has different atmospheres and moods and settings and whatever. So what's nice about this daylight scene is that there's sun coming through, but it's not everywhere. It's just in a couple of spots here and there, which also not only enriches the visual, but adds to the mystery as well, because we're still in for some places of shadow, right? Well, there's light there where which you have to walk there and talk to the guy. So there's the other skill, the other ability of light, which is to guide you through the game, right? Well, let's see what we have next. Wow, I saved this scene in particular because here is a prime example of narrative tied to lighting, you see? And on camera and framing, right? Saga says, I need to make sure I'm seeing the clues clearly. And she looks towards this lake and the mountains, and suddenly you have a vignette around the frame made by darkness and shadow, and everything else, the lake, the trees, the mountains, is illuminated because she's trying to see clearly. And what is she doing? She's through the darkness seeing clearly. It's a great example, you know. And also it's a wonderful picture of the game, right? Well, next up we have this which is the main place of Saga. The main place, which is, if you haven't played the game, it's like a mind palace, you know. The place, it's a place inside her head, in which she has to think about and solve the crimes, right? And it's pictured with a house, you know. But there's another interesting thing here, is that they could have done it, they could have done a very warm house, or an ambient, and warmer lights, and they could have lit everything much more, right? But they chose not to, because it would kind of break immersion. Even if it's her mind palace and it's a safe place, it would kind of break your immersion of, hey, you're playing a horror game, you know, this is a mystery. So there's still the need of darkness. And those two spotlights, which in any other game would probably be, or in other genre would probably be much warmer, are quite cold, right? Are neutral, at least, are quite cold compared to a spotlight, to a warm spotlight, right? Which we would expect in house. Anyways, and this is something I wanted to talk about especially because these are the photos that our protagonist takes of the crime scene, but the crime scene doesn't have this lighting. The crime scene has the lighting we were talking about earlier, very moody, rainy, not direct light anywhere to be seen. But here in these photos we have a flashlight pointed directly towards the photo, or maybe it's the flash of the camera, right? In real life. But I think that these are the kind of details that add a lot of immersion to a game. They said, okay, we are not just gonna fly around their scene and take these screenshots and use them as textures for these cards, right? No, they said, okay, we're gonna render this with different lighting to mimic a photo being taken by an FBI investigator, right? So let's get on with it. Next scene, we're back in town. Finally, we're in town. I mean, we were never in town. And it's great because town is supposed to be a safe place, and it's the first time we get to see a sunset or a sunrise. I would dare say it's a sunrise. And much brighter colors. I don't mean bright colors, but it all looks much more vivid than it did before, because it's safer, right? And even though we're still having dark spots here and there, like on the left of the frame, and if you look carefully, the mountains are still foggy or under the clouds. The mystery is still out there, right? But town is safe, or at least that's what they're trying to convey with light. Then she goes to this cafe in which she has to meet a couple of suspects or a couple of guys who saw the crime. I don't remember. And there's something very interesting about this cafe, is that it has no light on. I mean, I know we have natural light coming through the windows, but in any other genre, we would definitely have put some spotlights on the spotlights that are on top of the tables, the hanging lamps. We'd definitely have put some spotlights there. But here we don't have them. Why? Because, again, we don't want to have everything be very lit. We want to keep this aura of mystery, right? So let's keep going on. And I don't remember when this happens, but this thing we're looking at is Alan's studio, right? And I set this picture aside, or this sequence aside, because it's a great example of motivated lighting, right? Let the sequence play on, because I believe we'll have a frame that's farther back. Framing, yeah. Okay, so it's kind of an attic, right? We have two light sources, natural light coming from outside and artificial light, a lamp, a table lamp that's on the desk. However, and here comes the interesting bit, the owl that's hanging on the wall has its right side of the face illuminated, right? And of course, that lighting isn't coming from the artificial light we have in the lamp we have in the desk. It's put there, but still you feel it's part of the scene. It doesn't look out of place because it has the same color temperature as your table lamp, and it kind of conveys the same meaning, which is subtle lighting here, but also adds depth to that owl model, which I believe before we here it's more clearly seen. It adds depth, it adds volume to the model. And then we also have I believe this has to be a fill light in front of the desk in the midground. It's not the foreground because we are also building a vignette around this very centered frame. And this light in the midground, it's not coming from anywhere. I don't think that such a sunlight can come from the windows and the environment out there. So it might be either a couple of lights placed on the windows or a light placed on top there, a very cool light. Why? Because it contrasts the warmer light, and it also adds contrast to the desk. And I believe that's a great decision, right? A very good choice. And motivated lighting as well, because again, it's lighting that your brain thinks, okay, it's coming from the exterior, but it might not be. It might just be a light put there. So here our main character, our playable character, Saga, goes to the morgue, right? And it's fairly clear to see how in the first floor of the deputy's office, I believe that was, I don't remember, the marshal office, the marshal headquarters, better said, we have sunlight coming through the windows, and it's kind of a welcoming place. It's not so gloomy, but when we go to the basement, we have again the cyan color and the gloomy ambience, which is great because we are about to enter the morgue and bad things are going to happen. And lighting is telling you that bad things are going to happen. Just wait. And here it's an example of a post-processing change. It's very cool to see that. You will see how as she enters the room, the light that is now kind of neutral will turn cyanish, and that's great because we are back. I mean, our brains are now hardwired to think that something bad's about to happen because all the first sequence of the game is with this kind of tone mapping and light control, right? So let's get on with it. Let's keep going forward. This scene, they go back to the forest to keep studying the crime, right? To keep connecting the dots. And we have here the forest under a different light. This time we have a sunset, right? But it's not your ordinary sunset. It's a very foggy sunset. It's a very cloudy sunset, right? And it's a very reddish sunset. I mean, the oranges are kind of, look here. It's very similar. We are not talking about a red sunset, I mean. But it's kind of orange, and that's unsettling as well because this is not the kind of sunset you expect. I mean, you don't see sunsets like this in real life. You might have a couple of times in your life, and you will. And I assure you, if in real life you see a sunset like this, you will say, okay, what's going on? But yeah, it's unsettling. And this is kind of a very similar picture to the one we showed before, in which she is saying, oh, now I can see things clearly, and we get to see this view of the lake clearly, but this time with the sunset. Okay, so as they are going down to the crime scene, right, again, it's great to see how this sunset we had starts fading away. It starts becoming night as they go down. Again, lighting is here following the narrative because they are getting down to it, they're getting down to business. and literally going down the mountain, the hill. And look at this. There's almost no light. Shadows everywhere. And back there, that's probably where you have to go. You see a very faint, bright light, right? The sunset is gone. Sunset is nowhere to be seen. And this is the kind of gameplay we expect from Alan Wake, because in the first and in this game as well, there's a mechanic in which if you shine a flashlight towards an enemy, it kind of it weakens the enemy, and you're able to shoot at them better and do more damage to them. So it's this is the kind of visual you expect from the game, and it's great to see how they're tackling the flashlight, because, well, it looks like an IES light or that effect of not just a cone of light, but a shape being drawn by the light in the surfaces. But something very interesting as well here is that everything else is not just dark. You know what I mean? It's not just complete in total darkness. We have fog everywhere. That's giving us a sense of depth, and that is probably adding some light to the environment. Not by, I mean, emissive fog is a technique, because you don't want to be calculating how the light travels throughout the fog and anything. So sometimes you use it. It might not be emissive fog. I won't get into technical detail because I didn't work on this game, but we have fog suggesting us different volumes and distances, right? And, well, you can see the sky still has that kind of sunsetish hue to it, you know? But it's not complete darkness and a flashlight. It's very dark and a flashlight, but not total terrible darkness. Let's see what we have ahead. Well, this is the last scene from the first act of the game. And we're back to the sunset again. The red sunset, now it's redder than ever, I think. Still with those cyan undertones here and there. I mean, or that's what I think. My monitor might be a bit not very well calibrated, but no, it still has that. It still has that cyanish hue. It's a very faint undertone, but it will be present throughout the game, I assure you. Well, she finally finds Alan Wake. Alan Wake is not awake though. he's in the mud, lying in the mud. But I wanted to take a look at this right here, because color is driving your eye, right? You start looking at your left and you end up looking at your right, because, well, the first thing you're going to be looking at is the brightest spot in the image. Also, in this case, the redder point of the image, the orangier point of the most intense part of the image. And, well, our main character is backlit in this case, but Alan Wake is lit from the front, and I cut it here, but later on when they are talking, it's very nice to see this light interaction, because you see clearly Alan's face, but Saga's face, of course you're going to see clearly because there is light here, but she has the sunset behind, very bright, and she's not casting any shadows towards Alan, because, I mean, the light has to be placed carefully, and it's great, right, to Alan's face, I mean, at least the shadows. Well, what comes next is another example of movement, right? If I remember correctly, here, yeah. Movement through color, because again, we have this color palette which is almost complementary, because red and green are complementary, but I wouldn't dare say it's complementary palette. But look how you immediately you are pulled towards the right side of the picture, and your eyes do this traveling towards the left, you know, and that's great because it creates dynamism. It creates dynamic visuals, and that's what we're all in for, right? For a dynamic experience, because that's a video game. So, and we still have lots of fog and everything. So, guys, we are at the end of the first hour or so of gameplay in Alan Wake. This is my ending card. This is the best I could do. But I hope you enjoyed the video. And to sum up things, I mean, because summing up stuff is good to close this video. It's very interesting to study how lighting drives the narrative and how the narrative is driven by it. I mean, of course. In this case, we have very subtle and very simple lighting setups. I mean, it's mostly natural light. You know, we had an environment lighting everything with a cyanish color of the rain. I mean, of a storm clouds. We had a sunset. We had a sunrise. We had an interior, again, also mostly lit by natural light. And it's very hard to achieve a very good look through such simple lighting setups, because you have to be very careful with your options, which are few, because you are not going to be placing lots of lights. It's just your natural light. Well, it adds to the atmosphere of a mystery, a horror game, the darkness that natural light alone creates, you know, the shadows. And that's probably why one of the reasons why the art direction in this game is so good, is because they are doing simple things but doing them so well. And I believe that's very hard to do, because I won't say it's easy, but it's something and I mean me as well, we often say, okay, let's embellish this scene, let's make this scene look better. So we start analyze sources here and there, and you end up with a lot of eye candy, and it looks good. I mean, it will, but for an horror game it wouldn't be much appropriate, because too much light. And I also think sometimes I myself tend to overcharge pictures, and it's good to look on this, to take on a simple approach, because you can end up with amazing results and an award at the game awards for art direction, you know. So anyways, I hope you liked the video. It might be a bit too long. I don't know for how long I've been talking, but that's it, guys. See you around, and hope you liked it.